Hello and welcome to the Crumbs on the Carpet podcast. My name is Justin and joining me today is...
Connor. We're a little bit short-staffed today, too.
Yeah, because it's been a rough weekend and a rough week because we've all been busy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, today we're here to talk about a movie that I think we both enjoyed.
I mean,
it doesn't really
I
get enough
remember,
credit.
Like, I liked it when we watched it.
I know we've seen it probably about 4 or 5 times since it's been on Netflix.
Yeah, because we wanted to show it to everyone.
Yeah, because it's such a weird movie. Anyway, the movie is Last Shift. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to read the Netflix little blurb. A rookie cop assigned to guard a defunct police station for one final night discovers the terrifying reason that the site is being abandoned. It stars Juliana Harkavy, Joshua McHale, and Jay LaRose, and directed by Anthony DiBlasi. So, we are horror movie buffs. I mean,
we watched them so many times. Like, I think we've seen everything on Netflix at least once.
Yeah, and like anytime a new horror movie goes on Netflix that we haven't already seen, literally, so you're over here every other weekend.
Yeah.
And like we spend the whole weekend basically watching horror movies.
And like if there's a new one in theaters, we'll like either try to find a way to watch it or
we'll get a
whatever.
group together or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and October's like a sacred month for us.
I mean, I used to work in a haunted house, so...
Yeah. So, Last Shift was such an excellent movie, but it doesn't really get talked about much because, like, there's one person I showed it to. I think it was... I'm trying to remember who it was. It was a girl that I was watching horror movies with. Anyway, she said the movie was just boring. And that's the thing, like, real horror isn't necessarily always in your face.
There was a lot of build-up that you really needed in order to really get the fear.
Yeah, so the set dressing of this movie, like the actual setting, is this abandoned, or ostensibly abandoned police station. It's not actually abandoned, apparently. It's like they're working on decommissioning it for a bigger one. But there's like evidence that's sensitive that's stored there. So they're sending like a hazmat team in the morning, basically, to get this evidence and move it to a good police station. But in the meantime, they have like a single cop stationed there at all times. Our main character, I can't remember her name, because the last time we watched it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, this time I watched it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It's been a while since I've watched it.
So, her dad was a cop.
Yeah. And there was a lot of evidence about him, too.
So, I mean, I'd argue that it even existed.
Well, yeah.
So, spoilers ahead for the movie from this point on, because I don't want to really... I need everyone to go see this movie, because this movie is great. The setting is this really, really, like, sterile police station.
Yeah.
So, there's this constant, like, contrasting white screen, basically, with this very, like, this... I mean, I'm trying to think how to describe it, because it's like they use the cinematography to contrast her skin tones with the white spaces, the negative spaces.
There's a lot of the times, though, that she seemed like she was covered in dirt, though.
Well, sometimes, yeah. The main character is Jessica Lauren. Officer Lauren.
Like, there were times when it seemed like she had gotten dirty, and then there were times when, like, she was just, draped in shadow.
Yeah, it was really weird how they did, because it was very excellently done cinematography. Just because, like, she stood out in the scenes, but every scene was about her.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it more significant in a way if you're just watching the movie for the first time. So the main plot of the movie is she's watching the police station until the morning.
One thing about it, though, is that the fact that she stands out means that you are going to miss some stuff in the background. Because you are focused on her.
But that's like what you get for second and third watchings,
yeah.
You know? Because it's one of those movies that is designed to be watched multiple times so you can get all the little things here and there. There are very few other characters in this movie. Most of the characters you hear just voices.
Yeah.
So the plot is she's at this police station that's about to be decommissioned, waiting for the morning for a hazmat team to arrive to collect evidence and move it to an actual working police station. So she's supposed to be stationed there overnight. Apparently this is the police station her father was at. And her father died in a shootout against like some satanic cult. I remember like they had this weird like flower and circle kind of feel to them, like they're like flower circle feel. I can't remember exactly.
And I remember the police managed to take in the leader and 2 women.
Yeah, I think it was 3 women, but I'm not entirely sure. So there's that creepy song that kept playing. I remember it, and that like it was really weird. So
and like she even kept singing it every now and then.
Yeah, she would catch herself singing it and stuff like that. So the cult basically, if I recall correctly, worshipped like the King of Hell is what they called it. And so apparently, like I said, they worshipped the King of Hell. They were doing some black magic that night when they were killed in a shootout with the cops. The same shootout that killed her father. And her
Some
father
of them were, because remember, the ones that were taken in didn't die.
Yeah. So their leader didn't die, and 2 or 3 female followers didn't die. They immediately committed suicide in this police building. So now it's a haunted house movie in a weird way. So you start seeing these ghosts go around, basically, and they are freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, the actual monster design for these ghosts, like, if you look up the movie on Netflix, the main cult leader's design is basically the DVD cover, or the cover for the movie on Netflix.
Like, he's got a pentagram carved into his face.
And, like, the jagged teeth. Oh, the monster design was great. So, like, the only I'm trying to think where to go from there.
They also had the interrogations with all of them, like, in there.
So,
those were
the
creepy.
main plot is she's basically there just to watch this evidence, and suddenly there's a turn, and now it's a haunted house movie, and now she has to basically survive the night without knowing she needs to survive the night.
Very Five Nights at Freddy's-esque.
Yeah, like, she's checking things here and there, and it's really, like, the best part about the movie, honestly, in my opinion, is the cinematography, because it's so fantastic, just how sterile and claustrophobic it is.
There's also the phone calls that she makes that are just off.
Yeah, so the characters in the movie, you've got Officer Lauren. You see her all the time, because she is the protagonist. She is the main character. Then you have the cult leader and his followers. So there's 2 or 3 female followers. They're not very important. They're just there for shock value, basically. Then you have a homeless guy that comes to the front of this police station, and like if I remember right, he pees on the police station or something, so she takes him in.
Yeah, and then there's also another cop, but that's around the end.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Then you have another cop that comes in because she's been making panicked phone calls to the police officer. I'm gonna get to him very like what happens with that very soon. And then there's another character that's basically just like, I think it's a prostitute that was at the front of the police station, just basically existing.
I mean, they also
before
have
the
like
haunted house aspects really.
They also have like her dad and stuff, but that's all.
Well,
flashbacks.
they're not real characters. Yeah, they're not really characters. That's just plot devices. Or those are just plot devices. So, and then if you want to call it another character, there are the various phone calls, because I think the phone calls themselves are a character in this movie.
At that point, the way they are.
There are phone calls to various characters, but they're not real characters. It's literally just the police station screwing with her.
And then there's a lot of static and a lot of this.
So,
I think the first thing that paranormal that happened that we noticed was when pigs was written on the ceiling in blood.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the camera basically, something terrifying just happened on screen, like a jump scare type deal, but it wasn't really like the movie really didn't have jump scares. Not really. Which is something that I find like refreshing for a horror movie.
They had the fake ones that were just like, this is gonna scare you, but only because it's not actually anything.
Yeah, it's literally just her turning the lights off or on, and there's nothing in the room with her.
And it's one of those moments where you expect a jump scare, so you're prepared, and then...
Yeah, it's like an anti-jump scare. It's like, now your tension is completely resolved. So, there are some, like, theories on how jump scares should be used. More often than not, they're not used correctly. So, there's the step 1, building tension. Step 2, thing in face, loud noise, relieving tension.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of theory based on, you're just doing this for cheap scares. Like, it's not actually a scare, you're just startling the person. And there's a distinct difference. Like, I hate when someone's like, oh, you were totally terrified by that movie. Because, like, I don't really get jumpy at movies anyway. Like, I just kind of expect jump scares now.
Like,
when
I
go see a horror movie.
expect them, but ever so often one will catch me off guard and I'll jump a
Yeah.
bit. But, like, that doesn't mean that I was scared. It just means the noise freaked me
Yeah,
out.
it's just like, no, the noise just caught me off guard kind of thing. And, like, it's, I guess if you want jump scares, you can have all the jump scares.
I do like how The Grudge did their jump scares, though, because
How
they
it
let you
actu-
know it was coming, too.
Basically, yeah. So the jump scare wasn't really a jump scare so much as it was like a instantaneous release of tension based in the sheer amount of gore and violence
But
that was just on
also,
screen
you
out
had
of
the
nowhere.
building of dread with the building of the noise.
Yeah, and you could see like the cloud of hair forming in the corner. Yeah. So, and that's another one thing that really gets this movie a little bit of a bad rap in terms of bad rep. Is it bad rep because it's bad reputation, correct?
Yeah, I think.
So, but I've always heard it pronounced bad rap. Anyway,
Same.
long story. That's neither here. Semantics, neither here nor there. So anyway,
It's like
one thing
curling
that
the
a lot
word
of people
frothy.
don't like about this movie, because of the lack of jump scares and because of the way the cinematography is designed to catch you, to make you uncomfortable. It's very claustrophobic, very sterile, very like anemic kind of. Like, there's nothing going on but this character dynamic.
There's very little in the case of furniture, even.
I'm fixing to look up how much this movie actually cost to make, because
Like,
it couldn't have been.
I know that
much.
she had like a chair and there was a desk and all the old files and stuff, but there was very little in terms of
Well, like,
actual stuff there to catch your attention or anything.
yeah. So yeah, and there's no like record on like Wikipedia about how much it cost to make, because the movie couldn't have been too much.
Mm-mm.
Most of their money went to just characters or paying actors, and then like the,
The
actual
building itself.
cinematography. Yeah, the actual set, the actual editing, and then characters. Like, there's very little CGI in this movie too. Like editing when it comes to that, it was just like modifying the actual screen to get that dark shaped character basically on a blank white, pure white background. Like, that's the most editing that I could see, really. So anyway, so there's other things happen around the movie, like the homeless guy she put in a cell, suddenly he ends up like hung. And she panics, she's trying to get him out, and then she goes in and there's the women with the bags on their heads. I remember that. That was
I also
terrifying.
remember something to do with shoes. I don't remember what it was exactly.
Oh yeah, he basically, I want to say he peed on his shoes or something, or he just didn't have shoes, and she found some shoes for him. I don't recall, because the homeless guy really wasn't that important. It was basically a
Mm-mm.
MacGuffin to get her into the back of the store, or in the back of the police station. But I remember the one scene that got me a little bit, when like she walks into the cell and like her flashlight gets taken from her, and the lights are there's no lights in this area, so she's in a dark room. I don't even remember if they took the time to actually illuminate her face to where you can see it. I think they did, but yeah, this pitch black room, and suddenly you just see her flashlight rise, and she thinks it's the homeless guy, but like the person's like whispering or just not saying anything, I don't remember, and just being menacing. He's just standing there menacingly. Oh my god. But yeah. And suddenly, like, the doors finally open after she gets what's going on, kind of, because she realizes the homeless man's not in there. And it's like, oh god.
There was a lot of whispers just teasing her about her dad, too.
Yeah. So then the cop comes in. So she's been making panicked phone calls to the police department saying some people are, like, trying to screw with her and, like, she might be in danger kind of thing. Actually, she was trying specifically because she's trying to live up to her dad's memory. And, like, this is her first assignment as a police officer, if I can recall correctly. So, like, she's trying not to be like, I need help. No, she's trying to be like, I have this. I am in control of my life.
But I'm telling you guys what is happening
because
this could be an issue later.
Yeah. So eventually another cop comes in and like greets her, and like he seems like a pretty cool dude.
Yeah.
Like he's really chill. And like one thing leads to another kind of thing, and like they're flirting, and it's like, oh, so this is probably a relationship tease kind of thing. And it's actually a really nice conversation they had between these two characters, because it was a way of like giving a little bit of exposition, because the officer that came in actually told her a little bit more than she already knew.
One thing I want to say is not all of the phone calls were placed inside the station, because she freaked out that the call wasn't acting right, so she even went out to her car to make calls.
Yeah. So like it was like now the ghost is at her too. But yeah. So this officer comes in and there's a little bit of exposition. Apparently like the officer knew of her father somehow, and because she was like really young apparently, I want to say. Because this happened, like, the actual shootout happened, like, 10 or 20 years, if I recall correctly. So, like, this officer kind of knew of her father and was like, yeah, he was a really cool guy from what I know. And then he turns around to leave the room, or to get out of the actual department. And he has a gaping, open wound in the back of his head, where he'd been shot in the head. So it's clear, like, that was a ghost, too. And it was just the police station screwing with her. And that was that. Remember how I freaked out a little bit? I was like, oh crap. Like, I was on the edge of my seat with that scene because it was so cool. Because the wound actually looked realistic. Because oftentimes when you have like an edited on wound, either it's practical effects, like this was clearly practical. Sometimes practical effects, they look just like, oh, someone just put gum on the back of your head, right?
I think that he had worked with her father in the shootout part.
Yeah, but he tries not to let her know that.
Yeah.
He's just like, I knew of your father.
Yeah.
And then she finds a picture of him alongside her father. And it was like, oh no. But yeah, so like the actual effects they used, like sometimes practical effects, like when you put a wound on somebody, it looks just like bubble gum that's been chewed up and like is around it. And it looks stupid. Like you can probably go to a haunted house and find better makeup sometimes. And then it's like either digitally edited or whatever to make it look okay. And oftentimes, and there's other times where like you can clearly see that was digitally edited to be on that person, and it just doesn't look real. This looked real.
Like,
this looked like this dude took a bullet in his mouth.
If you work enough with liquid latex, you can make it look perfect.
Yeah, like that looked fantastic for a gaping head wound.
Yeah.
I mean, I need that. Like I need another hole in the head.
Because, I mean, you saw how much I had to work with the liquid latex on my neck to make it where it looked gaping enough and not fake.
But yeah, it came to a head in the movie later where there's like, it definitely had like so the cult itself, when you see the cult in the actual building tormenting this woman, tormenting Officer Lauren, there's like a distinct, almost like it's House of a Thousand Corpses kind of feel to their characterizations. Like they're kind of like, I'm trying to remember how like Rob Zombie explained his characters there. But it was a lot cleaner.
They were freaky hippie guys.
Yeah,
that
freaky
just
hippie
really...
guys that just want to torment her.
Yeah.
Like they were chaotic, always chaotic evil, and they just wanted to like scare the crap out of her. That's what it felt like.
And it felt like they were just doing it for the lulz.
Yeah. And the movie slowly ramps up to a head, and she finally gets a gun out and starts shooting at the ghosts. And then the ending happens, and you find out that the people she was shooting were the hazmat officers that were supposed to be getting there to clean out the evidence. And that there's the real possibility that this was all taking place in her head. And then as she dies, because like they shot her, because clearly she's insane, she's singing the same like satanic song that they were singing. So there's the implication that it might not actually be all in her head, but it still could be. And like endings like that are what make good horror movies good horror movies. Like for one, the good guy should never win. Not unless you want a serious case of sequelitis. For two, the bad guys really shouldn't win, because then you get a bad case of sequelitis. I mean, look at the Friday the 13th series.
And Nightmare Before Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah, whatever.
It's not Nightmare Before Christmas, Connor.
Yeah,
come on.
I've watched that movie too many times.
Well, yeah, you're weird.
And then
it's like a tradition for weird people.
And then also any movie from the Child's Play series.
Like you have this like villain
that
decay.
series gotten better.
Although the Child's Play series has been ramping up and actually been getting somewhat better, I think.
Yeah.
Like, the last movie, The Curse of Chucky, wasn't it?
No, The Cult of Chucky.
Cult of Chucky. That was actually really good.
Right
completely
after
was
we
blown out.
had the Seed of Chucky, which was
There was the Curse of Chucky, and then
awful.
there's the. But yeah, so I'm actually really impressed by those movies. But
Yeah.
more often than not, you get villain decay, where it's like, okay, now Freddy Krueger's just making dirty jokes.
I mean, we
That's
already
cool.
had that happen with Chucky.
Yeah.
Because,
same
like, I
with-
think
well,
after the
I don't think
movies-
Chucky was ever a serious villain, though. I
In the
mean,
first movie, he was.
they tried to make it serious.
But then, like, Child's Play 2 and 3,
They realized what he
Bride
was.
of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, then he just got, like, boring and terrible.
Yeah.
And then we got back with Curse of Chucky, back on track to what he was supposed to be.
Yeah, and it actually kind of returned to the original movie in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So
And they keep on referencing the original cast.
yeah, they keep having like the actual guy who played the original little boy in Child's Play is now a main character and stuff like that. And it was really
great.
cool. But yeah, so you either get a serious case of villain decay, where like the villain is no longer threatening or scary if you let him win in the first movie or the second movie.
I mean,
If
Friday
you
the
let the
13th
hero win in the
wasn't
first movie
really
or the
scary.
second movie, no.
And in Friday the 13th, the original villain doesn't even come back, because remember, it was his mom.
It's now Jason Voorhees as a big zombie monster. But yeah, so like you get these movies that like if the heroes win, there's going to be a teaser that says the villains remember that and they're going to come back and get him. If the villains win, that's cool too, but you have to play it in a very smart manner. Otherwise, you just decay your villain, and suddenly I'm basically not watching the movie anymore. I'm just watching someone be tormented. So it's like a movie that I just turn my brain off.
And, like, once the villain wins in one movie, you're basically cheering them on the rest of the movies.
Yeah. It's like Godzilla. My biggest example is Godzilla. So in 2014, they made the Godzilla movie, and most of the movie I'm sitting there wondering why the hell Aaron Taylor Johnson's on screen.
Like, I'm sitting there waiting
Like,
for Godzilla.
I want to see Godzilla.
And then, like, they bring out the other monster first, and I'm like, this isn't Godzilla.
I was cool with
I
that.
want Godzilla.
You have to show me the monster Godzilla's about to beat the crap out of, right?
But I still wanted Godzilla.
But it's like, and they almost did have a compelling human cast member in the form of Bryan Cranston's character, because I actually enjoyed Bryan Cranston's character in that movie.
But
then he dies like right off the bat.
and the thing is that you're making a movie that is known for its giant monsters and
Yeah.
all that, and you're basing it around people.
And it's the same thing with like the Freddy Krueger movies. So you get these movies where it's like, yeah, I get it. I'm supposed to be rooting for these stoners, basically, because I remember that's how Freddy vs. Jason was. There's like two stoners in the group, and they're like, hey, we should just get stoned, guys. But I'm supposed to be rooting for these stoners, but I really am not here to watch these kids try to survive.
Like in the
I'm
first,
here to watch them get brutally murdered.
in the first Nightmare on Elm
As
Street
sadistic as
movie,
that sounds.
it was really good because you were truly rooting for the
But
like
after
teenagers.
after that, Freddy Krueger's the main character. But
Yeah.
like I don't care about the kids
Like he was an
anymore
interesting villain,
at first,
and then they just made it where
and it was villain decay.
you wanted to watch.
And
what
then
he
they
would
tried to
do
reboot
next.
it with the guy who played Rorschach in the
That
Watchmen
was
movie.
it.
He was actually a good actor. Like I liked that actor.
But
It's
it
just-
wasn't Freddy.
It wasn't Freddy, and like they actually didn't have any idea what they were doing. But yeah, so
Wes
you can't.
Craven's A New Nightmare was pretty good
It
though.
was okay. But yeah, so you can't have your hero win. You can't have your villain win. You have to have some kind of bittersweet ending. And in this ending, here she is not only dying, so she cannot continue.
She's going insane.
She's going insane, so that's also a bittersweet thing. And there's the implication that
None of
that-
it was real.
there's the implications that A, none of it is real, or B, it was all not in her head. It's just she was susceptible to it. Because like her father was a big deal in that situation. So like they developed this story flawlessly for a single movie outing.
hmm
And that's something I do want to talk about at some point. The idea of with your story, right? With comic books, for example, or the horror movie sensations like Friday the 13th or
They're
Nightmare on Elm
actually
Street.
making a sequel to Unfriended too,
Oh,
about
God.
the dark web. I think.
Oh yeah, God. We're gonna have to watch
I
that, aren't
just
we?
saw the commercial for it this
We're
morning.
gonna have to watch that, aren't we?
Probably.
But yeah, so like, there's a serious question to be asked, both with like comic books, horror movies, anime, manga. The idea of when do you just stop making this story? Because every story has to end, otherwise the story is meaningless.
Like right now with Black Butler, they just decided to throw in a bunch of twists, and it's just like I don't even want to read this anymore. I was here for this, and now you've completely changed it, and it's not even what it should be.
Well, it's like
anymore.
Alan Moore back in. So we started off talking about this really excellent horror movie. And we're getting to Alan Moore a little bit here. When he wrote for DC Comics, one of his thing was, like, comic books will never achieve the level of respect they probably deserve because it's an excellent art form, because they never frickin' end. So, like, at some point, Superman has to stop being Superman.
Like, I appreciate...
until DC stops milking it for everything he's worth, like, he's never going to stop being Superman.
Like, I appreciate when I get into a manga series and it
has
ends.
an ending. Yeah.
Like, Chibi Vampire, for one. That one ended, and it ended in a timely manner. Not like Bleach or Dragon Ball Z going on for ages.
Or most horror movies now. Like, I think the best way I've seen the escalating sequelitis is through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's because you have multiple characters that don't have to interact.
At the same time, I understand that one, because we are getting into everything, trying to get as in-depth as we can.
Like, there's some characters, like, we're fixing to lose Cap and Iron Man, most likely. So, like, these characters are getting definitive ends, which makes those characters are worth seeing more often. Like Ray Bradbury said in Spiritual Machines, or The Age of Spiritual Machines, that time would be meaningless if you had too much of it. So it's one of those things that, like, these characters have to have a definitive end.
Of course, after Cap dies, I'm probably just going to spend hours watching The Winter Soldier over and over, because I love that movie.
I mean, it's my favorite Marvel movie. Still, even after Infinity War, it's my favorite Marvel movie. So,
it had a really good setup.
Yeah, it actually made sense in universe, and it was
and it also
great.
made sense for why they didn't get any of the other Avengers in.
So with Last Shift, they actually nail almost every horror movie, like, please do this, in their ending. Combined with this, like, amazing cinematography. The actress was actually... My only issue with the actress was that she did try to play too green, as if she's never actually had training as a cop.
Well, like, you don't really need training for watching something like that, and I think that was more of, you're watching this, we'll get more training in you later. Right now, we're only getting you to do what you should do.
Like, she already graduated the police academy. And, like, she was using, like, the police, like, mantra as, like, a personal mantra to try to get out of a lot of these situations. Like, there was times where she's clearly unnerved by what's going on, and she closes her eyes, has her, like, gun or taser to her chest, basically, and she's just, like, spouting off the police or under her breath, basically, like, I am here to defend the people, blah, 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 blah. And it was actually, like, I feel this character. But other times it's just, like, well, and I guess I understand in a way, because, like, she's not trained to deal with demons.
Yeah, and once you're in a situation where your adrenaline's hyped up, you don't have any sort of training anymore.
Like,
it pretty much goes out the window.
That's not true. That's literally what we train military officers to do. To recognize when the adrenaline's there and use it. And
her adrenaline is not used to demons.
It's not used to demons and ghosts and stuff.
It's used to criminals.
And toothy guys. Toothy boys. With pentagrams on their face. So,
nice tattoo, bro.
That's a nice tattoo. It's not a tattoo. I carved it myself. Oh, that's nice too.
You did good job. Those lines are pretty straight.
I don't know how you did that, man. But yeah, so this movie, like, I'm probably gonna go watch it at some point in the next week again, because, like, every time I watch it, I catch new things in the background or new things in the details. I remember there's also the scene where, like, she's in, like, the police locker and she's trying to hide from, like, something that's in the area. And the monster design was freaking phenomenal. It was great.
It's kind of like when you play Amnesia.
For the first time. And it's just like, oh, that is awesome.
Like, and you're freaking out because, you can't fight.
Anyway, you probably need to go watch that movie. And then tune in next week, because we're probably going to be talking about when to end stories. When stories need to end.
We'll figure it out.
Anyway, my name is Justin, and
I'm Connor,
and we were the Crumbs on the Carpet podcast. If you want to get in touch with us at any point and, like, interact with us, let us know what something you want to talk to us about. Our collective group email is crumbsonthecarpet2018@gmail.com. If you want to talk to me specifically, you can find me on most social media platforms under @Justin27M.
You can find me under @MadScientist369 on most things.
Anyway, we were the Crumbs on the Carpet podcast, because we're going to cease existing, because we're going to go watch this movie and it's all in our heads.